Hey y'all, it's Chrissy from Teadoddles, and it's time for the first video in my series called Sew This. In this series, I'm going to show you how to sew all kinds of things. I'm kicking it off with showing you different techniques when sewing garments. So I've got a big stack of fabric and patterns to work through. So that's where we'll start. I will also show techniques about quilting and bag making and all kinds of sewing. So that's why I just wanted to call it Sew This. And I have a playlist right now that has sewing tutorials in it that I've done previously. It has all kinds of things in it, so you could check that out as well. But for today's video, we're going to be learning how to put a buttonhole for a drawstring and some pajama pants. And these are knit pajama pants. So this is related to knit fabric. It would be fairly much the same if you're using woven fabric. Except woven fabric, you typically will have elastic in, and you can add a drawstring to the elastic. So I will do a video for that one as well. But for today, we're just talking about putting a buttonhole for a drawstring in knit pajama pants, or knit pants of any kind, really. And if you hear my dog bark, I do apologize. He is angry that I'm not in there with him. So here we go. So first off, I have my banding. This is the banding to the top of my pajama pants. These pajama pants are actually made out of this fabric, but I chose to put this banding on top because this is a thicker, sturdier knit than this. This is very flowy and lightweight, and I knew if I made the banding top out of it, it wouldn't hold as well. But since it doesn't have elastic in it, the banding is the elastic for these pants, basically. So I didn't want to use that fabric for my banding. So the first thing I did on here, and hopefully you can see it, is I've marked the two spaces where my buttonholes go. And this will be on the front half of this when I fold it in half this way so they come out, okay? Now, to reinforce this, as you can see on my little example, I have 2 layers of fabric, and that just helps reinforce your opening. So I have 2 little squares of fabric that I just cut from the same fabric. These are 2 by 2. They're too big, but I'd rather have them too big because I'm going to cut away the excess than to have them too small. Okay, so now I need to pin these on the back side of this. I can kind of see the bump ups for them where this is. Now, if you can't see that, you can also push a pin through to make sure you're putting these in the right place, or you can mark it on the back side of your fabric as well. So I'm just going to put my finger kind of where it is and lay that down like that. I'm going to hold it so I can flip it over and pin it on the front, because I want to be able to see my pins and be able to see, remove them easily, because I will be sewing on the front, not the back of the fabric. All right, now let's find this other one. Well, this one's a little bit easier because it should align with this one. Basically, they're going to overlap here, but once I get it sewn and get my fabric cut away, they won't be overlapping like that. All right. Get this pinned. Here we go. All right. So now this is ready for the sewing machine. Let me just double check everything. There we go. This is ready for the sewing machine. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about the buttonhole foot that I'll be using to make this buttonhole, because I am going to take you to the machine and show you how this works over there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how you decide how big this is, okay, or how this works. If we're looking, we see all these marks. This little red mark in the middle is the center of your buttonhole. The red marks that align with the green marks on the side is the bottom of your buttonhole. This is where you start. You start from the bottom and you go up when you're sewing. It comes back down and then it'll go back up, which I'll show you on the machine. So this goes up to whatever limits you have put on it. This right here is how you can decide what the limits are. You'll notice it doesn't go up that far, and this opening between those green marks and where the top of that is, or where the end of this is actually what size your buttonhole is. So this little thing on the end is a gauge to measure your button, which you would typically be putting in a buttonhole. You would put your button in these little slots and you would close it until it fits, and then this would be set in the right place for your buttonhole. Now, I'm not using a button on this, I'm using this ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my ribbon just in the slot, and I'm going to push it down. I don't want it tight on the ribbon because I'm going to be pulling this through the buttonhole. It's not like a button, which the buttonhole would be a slightly smaller than the button diameter, so that you can push it through the buttonhole and it will hold in place. So I just made it so that this comes through nicely, because that's what it's going to do in my drawstring pants. So now my gauge is set up correctly for my buttonhole, and now I'm going to take you over here to the machine so you can see how this works. Hey y'all, well, I'm over here at my sewing machine. If y'all see the camera wobble, the way I have this set up is not the best. I've got to find a better setup for this. But I'm going to show you how to put this buttonhole foot on your sewing machine. This particular type of foot, there's a snap-on foot, and the gauge is always towards the back. So I'm going to put this up under here, and I'll lower the presser foot thing, and it'll snap right on. Alright, so now I get my thread around here. There we go. I want this thread to be down in here, and the easiest way to do that is to lower my needle, hold on to the string, and then pull it back up, and then if I look up under here, I can grab it and pull it through with this. This is called a purple thing. I think that's what it's called. Alright, so now it's in there, and you do want your threads off to the side when you're sewing. So I'm gonna put my band up under here. I'm gonna make sure I get it lined up basically where I want it. Since I have to do two, what I usually do is do the first one and then just kind of go from there. So my buttonhole is from here to here, so I'm starting down here. Trying to see my guides. This fabric is a little hard to mark, so I'm going to put it down just like that, and I'm going to go ahead and take that needle out, or that pin rather. Now, in this case, if you could see the marks, you would align the red with the center of your buttonhole, and these would be aligned with that bottom line. If you notice on patterns, a lot of times it makes like a capital I shape, and that's the reason for that, so you can align it well. This fabric is just really hard to mark, so I'm just going with it. And the other thing you need to be sure is to set your machine to a buttonhole stitch. I have several different buttonhole stitches on this machine, and the one I picked is more suited for a knit buttonhole. So you'll have to check your manual for that to see which one works the best for you, but the setup would be the same. Alright, so now the other important thing is to note, and I don't think you can see that, I'm going to tilt this a little bit. There is a lever back here that has to be pulled down to go here. This is what helps stop your buttonhole where it needs to stop and start at. And on my machine, it won't even start unless you have this pulled down. Alright, so every machine is going to be a little bit different, but this is how my machine works. Alright, I am sorry for my dog barking. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start this. Now, this is what I'll say. This is an automatic type of stitch. It goes from start to finish. If you press the presser foot, I am going to slow my stitches down, because if I do this too fast on it, it will wrinkle up and it won't do right, okay? So, here we go. All right, there we go. And that's what I mean by an automatic stitch. It will stop when it gets finished and it gets back up to that point. Let me pick this up. Take this needle out, this pin, not a needle, Christy. And here is our finished buttonhole. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to hold my stitch out, my thread out to the side. But you can see why you want to do that. It kind of gets in between here. It's okay. You can really trim that out. So let's clip. And you can kind of see what it looks like here. I'm going to go ahead and do the other buttonhole, and then I'll take you back to the table and show you how to clean this up and clean up the back of it. Okay? Okay, here we go. These turned out fairly even. Even as they can for knit machine. For knit can get a little wonky sometimes on us. So, as you can see, this is all back here. And you could leave this back here if you want to, but it will interfere with the drawstring if you leave all that back there. So I suggest taking it out. And all you do is just cut close to the buttonhole. Don't get so close that you're cutting your stitches, obviously. This is just to reinforce the buttonhole. And that is the purpose of this. No other purpose. Let me turn this so I can cut at a better angle. That might make more sense, hadn't it? Alright. And I am so sorry if y'all can hear my dog barking. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to edit it out. He is quite irritated if he's up and somebody's not in the living room with him. He's an old dog. He's not a puppy either. Alright. So there we go. That's trimmed away. You can trim it away even more if you would like. Just be careful that you don't get into your stitches. So now you have to open up the buttonhole. You can use a seam ripper, which I am fond of using, depending on the fabric. It can leave the end a little frayed, depending on the fabric. You can also use some really sharp scissors like this. Sometimes I find it hard to get this into there, but this does leave a cleaner opening, and you have less chance of it slipping and cutting your stitches, which is not something you want to do. So you just cut just like that in between those stitches. I feel like this is not focusing, but maybe it is. We'll see. And then we're going to do this one right here. Just like that. Although I feel like that pattern throws me off on that. It makes it hard to see these buttonholes later right on my pattern. So now I have two little buttonholes to put my drawstring through. And so when I sew this, it's going to be the banding on my pants like this. So this will be right here, and I'll just slide that through. And I will do a video showing you how to put the drawstring in once I get the banding completed, okay? But today I just wanted to show y'all how to put a buttonhole on a knit for drawstring knit pajamas, all right? So I hope y'all found that helpful. And if you have anything in particular you're looking for a tutorial on, if I can talk, let me know in the comments below. And y'all remember to have a life lived creatively, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.